what does this reflect?
Basically, the agreement, paragraphs 4 and 5.
Okay, this is the one.
Compensation and merchandise.
Okay.
Mr. Depp, at this time, how many other franchise films have you been a part of?
I'll continue with that, then I'll put,
At that time, Alice Wonderland.
I think I can do the yellow there also. The yellow would be more better. And then over here, there would be a little bit of, let me use all this color. That's on the blush.
When it comes to no I'm sorry, I don't watch them. I feel better not watching. I couldn't, what was the question again?
How many
Order in the court, or I will have you removed. Understood? Thank you.
How many other franchise films had you been a part of at the time of this contract?
There was a third. There was Pirates. There was, with Warner Brothers, Fantastic Beasts, and Where to Find Them, and then Crimes of Grindelwald.
And how does the compensation reflected in this contract compare to that, what you received for the other franchises that you've been a part of? He just established that he was a member of other franchise films at this point.
Wait, who would play me?
All of the directions, you know.
Play me in a movie? We'll have to add more
I
yellow.
believe them.
I need another brush
The
like this, a
compensation,
big
obviously,
one.
all of the
Is it round? Should I use round?
back end and all those things that were negotiated by agents, lawyers. Was
Let me go get a brush and brush it.
comparatively, this was,
This is a good size.
this is my salary on that film. And other salaries were of similar, status, I suppose.
If I could direct your attention to the 12th page of the document.
Yes.
Is this your signature, Mr. Depp?
Yes, it is.
You can take this down, thank you. Mr. Depp, I recall that you testified that you don't know during a given period what movies you were working on. So my question is, who would know that?
First
All
of all,
right,
this
I'll work
was my
with this
agent,
one. Okay.
or agents.
What was I doing? I was gonna do. Oh,
I do recall a couple of the other films that I made after. One was,
oh, well, I can't
Initially
use that.
called Richard Says
Oh,
Goodbye.
I'll use this
and
one.
that was, they changed the name to the professor, and during all of the nastiness over the past 6 years, that film went straight to peer review.
I'm just gonna go this way. I'm gonna take it.
There was
This one.
another film called Minimata. It was produced, my company, Infinitum Mile.
Okay.
We had developed a film called Minimata about Eugene Smith, and the Minimata,
That's gonna come up and then I could.
well, the mercury poisoning of a very small fishing village in southern Japan.
This will be.
There was that one, and then there was a film called
Distance, no?
Waiting for the Barbarians. One Mark Rylance, and Robert Pattinson. Those were 3 films that I had done.
Mr. Duff, during your cross-examination, Mr. Rottenborn showed you a number of text messages between you and Paul Bettany. Do you remember that?
I didn't.
Could you please explain to the jury what your relationship with Mr. Bettany is?
Mr. Bettany and I have, we met while I was making a film called The Tourist in Venice, and we were, there was an instant connection. He's born and bred in the UK and has that English, sort of dry, kind of obtuse, abstract sense of humor. And that was one of the things that we connected on is taking, even if it was a difficult or unpleasant situation, we would, do our best to deal with it with humor as opposed to just a constant complaint or whining or anything of that nature. We dealt with it with humor, albeit sometimes, and as these are private texts that have to, there was a lot of context. It's important to know that none of it was ever intended to be real, and the language that's used, which I am ashamed that that has to be spread on the world like peanut butter. For example, the text that is about burning Ms. Heard it's directly from Monty Python in the sketch about burning witches and then drowning the witches. This is a film that we'd all watched when we were 10, and it's just irreverent and abstract humor. That's what we were referring to in those texts.
The text message that you just referenced, other than Mr. Bettany, who else saw that text message at the time that it was sent?
No, of course not.
Based on your own observations, how would you describe Mr. Bettany's relationship with Ms. Heard while you and Ms. Heard were together?
I don't know why anyone would record that.
Mr. Depp, the clip that Mr. Rottenborn played was from Defendant's Exhibit 839, and just for the record, this is a portion of a larger recording which is reflected in Plaintiff's Exhibit 342. So with the court's permission, I'd like to play a clip from Plaintiff's Exhibit 342.
And you've done nothing but...
And the portion I'd like to play is at 19 minutes, 40
You're not fucking
seconds
perfect either.
to 25 minutes, 25 seconds.
I don't think she's right.
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
I really don't believe so. Let's look at this.
Yes, I don't believe that there's anyone else in this audio recording, Your Honor.
Okay, 342, any objections?
This is,
We can confirm afterwards, so if Your Honor would, if it's more comfortable, we can put it in a 342A.
Okay. And what was the 342A, what's the purpose you're going to?
It's 19 minutes, 40 seconds to 25 minutes, 25 seconds.
All right. And there's just a two, and that's
it's
just.
gotta be done.
That's correct.
That's 342A in evidence, and thank you.
big.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
What is this?
I don't care. Plenty of things you've done. Plenty of things you fucking done.
Okay,
Absolutely
very good.
lies. And I never talk with you about it. So anyway, I'm leaving. So I'll see you in a bit.
Is that what matters?
You're lying.
Is this what matters to you, your party?
You're lying.
I never led you. And what we're talking about tonight is what? Why? Why are you doing this?
Goodbye.
Why? That is so important always to run away to. Why?
She wants to make herself a fucking victim. They do that so well.
Stay. You asked me once not to leave, and I'm asking you. So why every 5 seconds do I hear I'm leaving? Because there's a fucking movie party I gotta go to. I have never prioritized you behind that. And you, of all people, all this talk about not being that guy, you have done nothing but over the last 2 days but tell me that your movie parties were more important, including the night before last. When I said to you the same thing, stay. And today you apologized, said I love you, I'm so sorry. And then today it takes you 2 seconds. It takes you 20 seconds at most to go, fuck that, I hate you, I don't want to be with you, goodbye, I'm leaving, I'm running away. But I'm not running, I'm walking away. Then if you don't want to be with me in life, then you need to actually do it. You need to actually take off your reins and forget that 5 hours ago you said the opposite. Otherwise, you can't keep throwing that around. You can't keep saying to me that this is something you care about. That would have worked to you.
You, I'm always bitching.
Like you always bitching.
No, because I asked you to stay. Because I asked you to stay.
No, you should. You're fucking
What was
hard.
it? What was it when you asked me to
You're
stay?
a pain in the ass.
What was it when you asked
I
me to
can't
stay?
stand it.
What was it when you asked me to stay?
He's like, you're a pain in the ass. I can't
You said
stand
you
it no
promised
more.
not to leave.
That's what I
You
said.
said, you promised me not to leave. What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Did I stay or did I leave? Did I stay or did I leave? I stayed. So I stayed. And I've been in cunt ever since, which is why you told me about every other day how you couldn't imagine your life without me, including today. So, which one, does that seem normal to you? Does that seem normal to you? Because you told me tonight that you couldn't imagine your life without me, and now you're throwing your ring on the ground. Does that seem normal? That seems sober?
But you fucking asked for it, you stupid bitch.
Does that seem normal?
He's like, if you don't want me, just, well then, you gotta tell me and give me the ring. And he fucking gave it to you, and you continue to push and push and push.
When I've been consistent all night.
Fuck.
Don't go, don't fuck this all up. I'm not.
Oh, don't go.
I've been saying.
Leave, but don't go. Get the fuck out of here, but don't leave. Come on, stop the fucking bullshit.
I'm not.
Get the fuck out of here with that
But we
stupidity.
don't have to do this every time we
Fuck,
disagree.
but don't fucking, you know, I can't
Please,
believe these fucking people, man.
please come here.
Come here.
I'm not insulting you. I have not been insulting you. I love you. Johnny, what do you need me to do? I love you.
No, you don't.
Stop.
He's like, he knows in his mind, he's analyzing things and he knows something is fucking off. Because the way she's expressing herself, it's not the way she usually expresses herself. So he's like, he can't put his finger on it, Because this bitch is recording him. And he's just going through the process of not, like, is this real? Is she, like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And he can't put his finger on it. But this is what she does. She makes herself sound like, for the camera, oh, I know. Come on. That's... It's ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Mr. Depp, what are you and Ms. Heard discussing in this recording?
It is another argument that is not an argument, the screeching of her voice, the demand that things go her way and only her way. I was done, and I think I stated clearly, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be with you. I'm not going to be a parrot on or some, little dog that runs through hoops for you. I ain't gonna
That's
do
right.
that. And I wanted out. She said, take your ring off.
Actually, he
She
did.
still wouldn't let me. I did.
And he
She
still wouldn't.
let
Yep,
me
that's
leave.
right.
So it's just another
Game
example of
that she plays, yeah. That's what I saw. That's her defense. And this is the freaking evidence that they put out. Like, to make him look better, and it's making him look better. I mean, it's, come on. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
screaming and screaming like a banshee and then telling me to calm down. And I had been pretty calm, I thought.
Where were you trying to go, if you can recall?
Anywhere away.
And why did you ask Miss Heard if she wanted to smack you in the ear again?
Oh, because she smacked her before. This is what she does.
She had given me a good chop in the ear, one of those where leaves you ringing, And it was not long before that, and so I thought, maybe this will make you happy. Will it make you happy? Would you like to hit me in the ear again? Would that make you feel better? Or
Wow.
make you stop? Yes.
There you go.
Would have done anything to stop. Outside of
Yeah.
taking anything to some physical level. I disagree with that a lot of it. That's not me.
Yeah.
Not who I've ever been. It's not who I'll ever be.
Mr. Duck, I'm going to play another audio recording. This is a different portion from what Mr. Rottenborn played for you today. It's DX 598. I believe the portion Mr. Rottenborn played was designated 598B, so this will be 598C. And first I'd like to play the portion from 31 minutes, 14 seconds to 33 minutes, 4 seconds.
You objecting to 598C?
And then we will go on and play the second portion, which is 56 minutes, 27 seconds to 59 minutes, 54 seconds.
All right, 598C and everything.
It builds, right? Like we build, I build, it isn't like at one moment either of us sign a certificate of saying, or like sign a contract or say, okay, no, no. So acting as though there's choice between the two is irrelevant. I'm not asking you to stay over having a blood bath. I'm asking you, over walking walking away. I'm not asking you to have a bloodbath before walking away. I'm
What?
asking you to work it out over prolonging it and making it bigger.
Right, but if,
I mean, at least that's how I see it.
indeed,
You know?
but if things get heated,
Yeah.
and it looks like it's going somewhere nasty, and the name calling begins, and all that stuff, I've got to get away. Because I don't want to be ever in a situation again like that.
Mm.
Never,
Me too.
never. So
Me too.
that's, don't freak out if we do have a fight and I walk away.
I'm not going to do that. I'm asking you to stay when you feel you are also in the interest of working it
I
out.
think it's a good idea for us to take a moment or two, or a moment, and take some time.
That's right.
Take some time to think by ourselves without being, barraged by each other's,
There you go. Perfect. Damn.
let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
And come back, try and be calm, and walk through the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna stand and fight with you. I will not. You can call me a coward.
I don't
You
want
can call me anything you want. All those names, do it. But I will not do it again.
Please, stop asking. I mean, please, can you stop for the sake of this conversation?
I'm just saying I won't do it again. That's all.
Whoa. It doesn't make it look too good.
Okay, great. Then let's take our space and let's not do this anymore. Because I'm really getting frustrated. I'm really, really, really sick of this argument. Okay? So let me go, and you go, and I'll speak to you in a couple hours. Okay? Okay? Why are you saying stop? May I go?
Please, it causes me so much stress when you leave, when you walk away from me with that. It's like you don't understand how much worse you're making this. Please, you're making it worse for me.
Okay, I'm sorry for you.
Please, I'm only trying to tell you, Susie, you know, you're causing me immense stress right now.
Stress? Because he's trying to get the fuck away from you.
Goodbye.
You sick bitch.
I don't want to leave. You're not saying goodbye. You won't let me fucking leave. Let me leave.
Stop pushing me in the corner and then poking me with the stick and then saying, why are you saying the words you want me to say? Stop poking me. Stop rushing me. Stop throwing me against the wall. Going, what? You don't like that wall? You don't like the fucking wall? Stop pushing me.
I'm rushing you. I said, I need space. I don't want this conversation anymore right now. I need space. And I will take my space. Whether you like it or not. I will take it.
Yeah, get the fuck away.
You will take your space. But if you keep halting
I'm not doing
this
anything.
and continuing
I'm
with
not
the
just
rhetoric,
doing it. I'm begging you to stop.
I don't. Okay, stop.
I'm just.
Stop. Now I have to go.
No, I gotta go.
Okay? So we will speak to each other in a couple of hours. Okay? Now give some kind of revelation makes you feel better.
Sick fucking bitch.
I hope I do too.
Holy shit, like, what the fuck is wrong with this woman? Like,
Finish
what
this
the
or we
fuck?
won't finish it.
Oh my god.
But this is not love. This is not happiness. This is not.
She's a fucking spoiled brat. She's acting like a fucking 12-year-old. Like, please, please.
I'm gonna die at this age. I'm gonna fucking
What?
die. You're causing me so much stress. Please stop.
What?
Please, I feel like I have heart attacks almost every day. Please stop. Please
what is-
stop.
why-
Please stop. He's so fucking mean.
Why are
You're
you
fucking
with me?
bully. Stop. Please stop. I've been saying we have to fight. I just said, can we please have a normal argument? Just even a normal conversation, like a normal argument. And for the last
Oh,
hour,
please.
begging you to please just leave it at that. Let's just go on.
Oh my lord, this lady is something else. Shit. Holy shit. What a fucking spoiled brat.
Fucking killing me.
because I'm telling you to leave and I'll see you in a couple of hours.
Could you, please, I want you to just go, I want you to take your medicine.
Take your medicine.
I'm sorry that I upset you.
Thank you, Sean. I'm ready to go. Thank you so much.
Mr. Depp, in the beginning,
Wow.
well, first of all, do you know where you are when you're having this discussion with Ms. Heard?
Wow. Hey, what's up, Green?
The only, excuse me, the only clue that I have is that, Sean is being called. I called Sean and said to drive her home, or I believe it was probably at Sweetser, so then she could drive back, he would drive her back to, downtown.
I need something else.
House 3, with, she didn't seem in any shape to drive.
Oh, Lord, what are you
Earlier
gonna
in the
do?
clip, there was a reference
What are
to
you gonna
a
do?
bloodbath. What
You're
does that
gonna
mean
do
in
what you're
that
gonna do.
conversation?
Oops. I dropped this. Right there. Oh, there goes the knife. The palette knife. Let me put this over here.
Next question.
I gotta continue to build this up in layers. This, oh shit, look at this. You see I got the knife next to this, and I got all this. Oh shit. Okay, so I gotta keep these separate. Oh, look at that.
Apologize for,
Oh, you see I gotta,
having gone through with the whipping.
best way to do it is this way. That way they don't get near each other. And then,
I
okay.
have to say,
Like that, and I got
my
my
mom
rag.
never did that. She couldn't, she knew what she knew. She was raised how she was raised.
She's a spoiled brat, that girl.
I had no power to change what was inside of her.
That's right.
How did your parents' relationship with
It's like I had no power to change how she was brought up. She got problems. Some of these girls, when they're raised, the daddy spoiled them, and then when they get a husband, they want to be spoiled the same way.
And he left for work one morning.
It's ridiculous.
And
You can tell that's a
back
problem.
in his car, and then he left.
She doesn't even want to let the guy go to work.
My mom, Debbie Sue, came home from
It's
work at
ridiculous.
about 3:30 in the afternoon.
And then this is,
She walks in the
I need
door.
another bus. It seems like you grab one bush and then you need another
and
one.
just looked around.
And I don't have terpenoid to work like that.
I said, what's wrong? She
Can't
said,
be
"The guy's
cleaning too
gone."
many brushes.
I said, yeah, I seen him leave for work this morning. She said,
I'm
"Oh,
gonna
no,
have to get me a
no."
jar of
She
terpenoid.
ran into the,
Okay, this one is gonna
into the
be,
closet, and I followed her,
let me see. It's gonna, I'm gonna
and what's
soften
on
that.
his
Well, I
side
can soften it with
cracked.
this one.
Clothing and all his belongings were
Oh,
gone,
this gotta soften all
and
this.
she was quite upset.
All this, I'm gonna fix all
And
that.
I took her car and drove to my
All
father's
this,
work,
all.
and I sat down in front of the
Those are gonna be bluer.
and I said, listen,
Let me make this bluer. The sun is coming this way. This is gonna get darker here.
and,
Everything is gonna be darker towards one end.
he said, yeah,
And
he
this
said,
one.
I'm done, I can't do it anymore, I can't live it anymore. You're the man,
This one and
and, those words,
this one a
didn't
distance
quite
all the
sit
way
well.
pushed back.
I didn't feel like
And
I was
over
ready
here.
to those words. But
I
that's
can
what
do
I
the
got.
water.
Then my mom went into a very, very dark place, a very deep, dark depression, as you can imagine. And
It's that way.
she, one afternoon I woke up.
Let me me see if I put some bodies in here in the water.
I woke up and walked out into the
I can
living room,
put
and I saw my mother,
put a body in there in the water.
like, very feebly, and like almost, it was like a slow
Put one
motion
there.
crawl. If I could stand up, I could show you just what I saw. Do you mind?
This face is gonna turn this way.
I saw my mother.
This one.
In that mode. So instantly,
This is gonna go this way.
I knew that something was dreadfully wrong. And
Chest.
drool coming out of her mouth.
Is the chest gonna come this
As I was
way?
about to run call, the front door busted open.
Let me add a little bit of flesh over there.
Two paramedics came in and
And then the water.
threw on the gurney, whisked her out of the house to get into the hospital
I want this to reflect more light. Oh, I got this way better.
swallow a multitude of pills
Wow.
to try to take herself out,
Wow.
to try to commit suicide. And when she got out of the hospital, she was a small firecracker of a woman. She was about 5'2". But when she got out of the hospital, the depression was so deep, she was down to, she lived on the couch and she weighed about 70 pounds.
Wow.
And that, all that imagery spun into my head
Okay.
at that time. I thought that was a very, in my head at the time, I thought that was a cowardly way for my father to have left. And I was deeply upset by that. Until my father and I had a conversation years later where I asked him what really happened, how did it happen when I was older.
Huh.
And he told me the story.
Oh shit, let me hear this. This is interesting. Okay, I'll fill that in. And this is, let me, that's gonna push that, yeah, his neck, his arms. I'll put him in that way. I can continue with some other babies. Get a little more. Then all this, I gotta fix the face. All this is I gotta, let me get where's the other brush? I can use, make that.
Mr. Duff, how did you feel about your father when he left?
Oh, this is another. I'm glad I didn't leave.
I was very disappointed in him because I started to believe that his exit was sneaky, cowardly. He didn't. When he said goodbye to me when he left for work that morning, he said goodbye. Goodbye, Bob. See you later, Pop. And that's it. Until I learned the truth from him.
And without getting into what your father told you, how has your impression of your father change now?
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor, this is just an understanding of his perception of his family.
I'll sustain the objection.
Mr. Depp, what have you learned from your experience in your childhood and observing your father in your childhood?
I learned that I was wrong about my first impressions of his exit from the family. Very wrong. And
Wow.
I'll tell you one thing that I learned that was one of the best lessons I believe I've ever learned in my life, ever could learn in my life, was based on my experiences as a child and what I'd seen and experienced. I knew exactly how to raise children. When my girl Vanessa got pregnant, I knew exactly how to raise children, which was to do the opposite of what they did, of what Betty Sue did.
That's what I do.
Never raise your voice in front of the children, never.
Wow.
Screaming out the word no to them.
Wow.
I never wanted to tell my kids no. I wanted to tell them that. I wanted to show them that there were options. You don't have to stick the coat hanger in the electrical socket. You know, saying no is an abrupt thing, but to talk to them and say, if you understand the repercussions of something, then you won't go there. So maybe think about this as opposed to this.
Oh, wow.
Give this some thought, you know. But that will clearly,
He's smart. He's not a...
that could
like
kill
these
you.
actors that are...
So I would ease them away from things of that nature with a more of
Gotta
a
do the face.
more of a conversation as opposed to a you know, a flat out, don't you ever
I
do
could
that
do the
again, and
collarbone.
threats and things of that nature. I did not raise my children,
I could
nor
do
did Vanessa. We never raised our voices in front of our children, ever.
How do you
And-
think your experiences with your parents in your childhood affected your approach to your relationship with Miss Hurd?
I'm sorry, one more time?
How did your experiences observing your parents as a child affect your approach to your relationship with Miss Hurd?
Well, in the beginning of my relationship with Miss Hurd, there was, from what I recall and what I remember, she was it was as if she was too good to be true. She was attentive, she was loving, she was smart, she was kind, she was funny, she was understanding, we had many things in common, certain blues music and, well, music, literature, things of that nature. So for that year or year and a half, it was amazing.
It's like
There were a couple of things that,
going at it little by little.
I don't know, stuck in my head that I noticed that I thought might be a little bit of a dilemma at some point. For example, if I I worked quite a lot. And when I would come home from work, I would come in the house or the hotel, and she would sit me down on the couch and give me a glass of wine and take my boots off, set them to the side, and I'd never experienced anything like that in my life. I just never thought I just never experienced that before. And it became a regular thing that she did, this kind of routine. And I remember one night I came home from work, and I think she was on the phone or something, or busy, she was doing something, and so I sat down on the couch and I took my boots off, and suddenly Miss Heard approached with this look on her face, and she just said, "What did you just do? What did you do?" I said, "What do you mean?" "You took your boots off." I said, "Yeah, yes I did. You were busy, you know." No, that's my job. That's what I do.
Yeah. So put them back
You don't
on.
do that. I do that.
I'll take them off.
Okay, all right then.
All right then.
And then she said, "Let me get you a glass of wine." And she brought me a glass of wine.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
But I did take pause, of course. The fact that she was
I took
visibly
pause, of course.
shaken or upset
Was-
that I had
oh wow.
I
That's
had broken
great.
her
Oh,
rules of routine.
rules of routine. Oh,
I thought that strange. And then once you notice something like that,
Uh-huh.
then you start to notice other little
Another thing.
tidbits,
Tidbits.
things that come out.
Oh shit.
And then within a year and a half, she had become another person almost.
Oh wow.
Mr. Depp, we're gonna talk about Miss Heard in a couple minutes, but I'd like to first talk about
Wow. That's
your
crazy.
career in Hollywood. And so, could you please tell the jury how you ended up acting in the first place?
I ended up acting by accident. I was a musician, and I moved out to Los Angeles with my band when I was 20 years old. And then there were a couple of things that happened in the band where the band split up, and I remember I was filling out job applications, and with a friend of mine, who happens to be, he was an actor, less known than he is now, Nicolas Cage. And I was filling out job applications at any video stores, clothing stores, anything, and just to be able to pay the rent. And Nick Cage said, you know, why don't you meet my agent, you know, because I think you're an actor, I think you could be an actor. And I said, I'll meet anybody, you know, I'll do anything at this point. And so he sent me to his agent, Eileen Feldman, and I met with her. She sent me to read for a casting director named Annette Benson, who was casting a film called The Nightmare on Elm Street. And they brought me back to read for the director, Wes Craven. And I read for Wes Craven and somehow got the job. But I mean, I was by no means an actor. I didn't have any desire to be an actor. I was a musician. But the fact that these people were going to pay me what I found to be a ludicrous sum of money which was, it was kind of the SAG minimum. It was $1,284 a week, which I'd never seen that kind of dough before in my life. And so I suddenly, then I did some other couple of dumb movies because I still, in my mind, I was a musician, and this was just a way to pay the rent, pay the bills, live. Then suddenly I found myself on that road. I had been placed on that road as an actor, and then one thing led to another, from film to film, and then I was cast in a TV series called 21 Jump Street when I was 22, I believe.
Mr. Dutt, between the time that you were cast in Nightmare on Elm Street and were cast in 21 Jump Street, how did you enjoy acting during that time?
It was foreign to me. It was foreign to me, but I didn't have any great ambition to be an actor. I'm a naturally, normally, I've always been quite a shy person. I've always been quite introverted. And so there was a very strange metamorphosis from being one of four, that is to say, one of four in a band where you have this fraternity or this brotherhood, and you're out there fighting the world together to try to get that record deal or whatever you're looking for. And when I got on the series and my life started to change in various ways, that is to say that people started to, you go into a restaurant and you'd see people whispering and pointing and all that. I was very uncomfortable with it. I was very uncomfortable with it, and I didn't like it. Just because I never wanted to be the lead singer and the guy out front and get all the attention, and I didn't. So suddenly I was on my own, and I was having to deal with this newfound sort of notoriety, and it was odd. It was very odd, and it was a very uncomfortable thing. I don't think it's anything that one can get used to. I'm still not used to it now, which I'm actually glad that I'm not used to it. Because if I were, I don't think I'd be the same person that I am.
Mr. Dutt, did there come a time when you became passionate about acting?
Once I realized that that's the road that I was on, and that any attempt at going back to music would be would have been. I hated the idea that since the television series had come out and I had been exposed as this character or this actor, I had to realize in my own mind and heart that there was no going back to music, because I didn't want to, I didn't want to use whatever amount of success that I had attained from the TV series and that sort of thing. I didn't want to use that to influence
I gotta adjust.
you know, some career in music. I had far too much respect for music than to just become what they wanted me to become, which was a, you know, teen idol or teen, you know, that sort of thing. I fought that with everything in my being. So once I realized that music was no longer an option, then I began to study at various places. You know, the Loft Studio, which is now long gone, in Los Angeles. I studied with some other teachers, Sandra Seacat. I read all the books that you could read, and all that was great, but you realize that the only way to learn, or the only way to learn how to, it's not act necessarily, the only way to learn how to react and behave, because it's just behavior and it's reaction,
Okay.
was to do it. It's on the job training, it's trial by fire. So I did my best to work up my own approach towards the character and such.
What were a couple of the first few projects that you worked on where you were really able to implement that approach?
I would say that the first film that I had done, that I really took,
I'm gonna open up
where I
this
really
now.
felt, okay, I've done the work, I know what I need to do. I would say that where I considered myself an actor, I suppose, was when Oliver Stone cast me in Platoon in 1986.
How did you come to be cast in Pirates of the Caribbean?
Well, that's many years later, but I had been, Disney had offered me a film called Hidalgo, when it was about a man and his horse in the desert and
Oh,
stuff.
this is I can use this one.
I read the screenplay, and I just didn't think it was for me. But I wanted to have a meeting with them because at that point I had a 2-year-old, two and a half year old daughter, and so, or 3, and for 3 years I watched nothing but animated films, cartoons from Tex Avery to Bugs Bunny to that was all I watched with my
Your daughter.
little girl.
Oh, that's good.
And I received the screenplay for Pirates, and
Oh, I see.
it was that I somehow in my mind I saw this opportunity, like a way to mesh characters like cartoon characters. For example, Wile E. Coyote gets a boulder dropped on his head, and he's completely crushed, but then they cut to the next scene and he's just got a little bandage on his head. So I started thinking about the parameters that were available to cartoon characters, and if they were available to cartoon characters and nobody ever asked a question whether you were 5 or 95, You didn't ask a question. Oh, Wile E. Coyote, of course he's still alive. So I tried to incorporate these kind of ideas into the character of Captain Jack Sparrow, so that I could try to push those parameters and control the sort of suspension of disbelief, to be able to control the characters' actions, words, movements, and put them in a place where the things that he would do or say were so either ludicrous or mainly something that also something the cartoon characters can get away with things we can't. Captain Jack Sparrow can do things that I could never do. He could say things that I could never say. So it was for me a way to stretch the parameters of a character and
Let me see if I bring it close.
and take a risk in doing that. But if it panned out, and I felt I was on a pretty good mission. If it panned out, I thought that it might be a character who would be accepted by 5-year-olds and 45-year-olds and 65-year-olds and 85-year-olds, and in the same way that Bugs Bunny is, you know.
You mentioned that, sorry, you mentioned that you received the script. When was that?
I'm sorry.
When did you first receive the script for Pirates of the Caribbean?
The first screenplay I received was 2002, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
2002.
way. I'll bring the arm
And
that
what
way.
did you think of that script when you
I
received
can
it?
add more white there.
I thought that it had all the kind of hallmarks
bring it over here.
of a Disney film. That is to say, a kind of a predictable 3-act structure.
That works.
And the character of Captain Jack
I'm gonna
was
kind of put this image up.
more.
I don't know where I got this image.
He was
It's
more
on my
like a
head, so
swashbuckler type that would kind of
fit
swing in
the body
shirtless
and
and be the hero.
make it look like
And
Dream.
I had
Make
quite
it
different
surreal.
ideas about the character, so
It's gonna be a body
I
there.
incorporated my
I can probably
No, to the
draw some
character.
heads.
brought that character to life.
Oh.
Much to the chagrin of Disney.
Some, in the back I can draw some.
Initially.
I don't know.
Now, when you say you made changes to the character, how did you do that?
Spirit's going that way. This is
Just
light.
in preparation, the very same way that I've ever approached any
Put this more
character.
brighter.
You look for a back history, you base it on,
Now if I do,
it could be anything, like Edward Scissorhands, for example, was based on a dog that I'd had and newborn babies. My sister had a couple of new babies and I watched them, because I thought that Edward would see things from the sort of from a place of innocence, and not knowing exactly what things meant or were, and also that look of a pure, innocent child when they experience something for the first time. Those were the two main ingredients that I thought would serve the character. And with Captain Jack, again, the cartoons, the Pepe Le Pew, it's like making a soup, it's ingredients, it's just ingredients. There's some Pepe Le Pew in there. There's some Keith Richards in there. There's a bit of a, you know, I figured this is a guy who's been on the sea for the majority of his life. Quite possibly his brains may have been scrambled a bit by the sun. And also I thought that he'd been on the sea for so long that he had his sea legs, but when he got on land, he just didn't have his land legs. So he could never quite
Warp right.
stand still.
How did the film ultimately turn out in your view?
I didn't see it. But I believe that the film, well, I mean, the film did pretty well apparently, and they wanted to keep going, making more, and I was fine to do that. There's great freedom in being able to. It's not like you become that person, but if you know that character to the degree that I did, because he was not what the writers wrote, so they really weren't able to write for him. So once you know the character better than the writers, that's when you have to be true to the character and add your words, add the rewrites. I was, I believed in the character wholeheartedly, and the initially the Disney folks were somewhat upset.
Now, you mentioned that the film was, to your understanding, a great success. How did your life change after the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie came out?
Though I'd been around for many years already, and people knew who I was and all that. After Pirates 1 came out, there was a completely different. It was a completely different way of life was being sort of. You know, my family and I were being plunged into. That is to say, you know, at our house in Los Angeles, you would have people trying to climb the gates to get into see Captain Jack Sparrow. You would have people trying to bust in the gates dressed as Captain Jack Sparrow. You would have and follow you and your family. So that was the moment when there was no other way but to we had to hire more security guards, and I was certainly worried for my kids' safety. And so then that's when instead of just the one guy, there became several security people, because I wanted to make sure that my kids were safe when they went to school, or when they went to Disneyland, or when they went to the mall, or whatever. So yes, more security, and then just getting followed, by hordes of paparazzi and things like that. It's I've had worse jobs, certainly. I can't complain about it. But, after a while you realize that anonymity has left the building a long time ago. The anonymity's gone. And that's an odd thing to deal with. When you can't just drive down to the diner and get a cup of coffee or something. It's not possible. It turns into something else altogether. So it's acceptance, and of course there's a bit of sacrifice involved. I can't complain about the work that I've been given. I can't complain about any of that. I have no right to. But it does make you have to think very creatively with, when you've got little kids, about how to take them to the park, or, you know, to the swings, or to the this or that, a movie, or, you know, it becomes a strategic mission. And that's what happened after Pirates.
Now, you mentioned your family. Who did your family consist of at that time?
Vanessa, Parity, the mother of my children, we were together for 14, 15 years. Myself, our daughter Lily Rose, and our boy Jack.
Now, you mentioned hiring more security. Did you already have a security team at the time that Pirates of the Caribbean came out?
Yes, because there've been more films prior to that, a number of films prior to that, so I was recognized, I was known, so if you wanted to attempt to have any experience that might be normal, you sort of had to have somebody around to get you out of a squirrely situation should it arise. So I had security prior to that for who would travel with myself and my family. But not like, you know, when I was at work, back then I didn't have security at work so much, you know, and not before Pirates. Pirates was really that was the thing that everything, it all turned around, it all just went weird.
So how did your security team change after Pirates of the Caribbean came out?
Well, like I said, with anything, it had become more strategic, and you had to have more guys or gals, because if Vanessa, for example, she worked in France quite a lot, and if she was in France, and
That's probably the
I was in LA with
that balance
kiddies,
right there. If I put someone
then,
else, I could
then working.
this so.
Security would basically pick my kids up at school or whatever and bring them home. So that became the routine, driving them to school, bringing them home. So yeah, and then if I went somewhere, so that it just, the security guards have multiplied because you needed to protect your street, your house, your kids. Endless.
So after Pirates of the Caribbean, who has been on your security team?
Jerry Judge was with me for, oh boy, over 20 years. Jerry Judge we mentioned it before. It was a year or two ago. Jerry would go on film sets with me. He would do reconnaissance missions. You know, that is to say, he would go to a country before we would go there, make sure all the hotel rooms were all taken care of and such. Or when I went on tour with, say, the Hollywood Vampires, which is a band that I played with, he would come on the road with me with another security guard. So there was Jerry Judge, there was Malcolm Conley, who's been with me for 20 years or more, Leonard Damien, Sean Bett, Travis Mcgivern, Mark Gibbs. I mean, there are a few.
Are all of these security personnel still with you today?
Jerry has gone on to somewhere else. Jerry passed away from cancer, so Jerry made his exit. But the majority of I believe all of those fellows are still with me, yes.
When did Mr. Judge pass away?
I believe it was two years ago, roughly. Maybe a little less than 2 years ago.
Now I'd like to go through a couple of the names that you just mentioned. What is Malcolm Conley's purview in the realm of your security team?
What is his role?
Exactly, yes.
Well, now that Jerry and Malcolm had worked together for a very long time, so I'd met Malcolm through Jerry. After Jerry's passing, Malcolm obviously took over for Jerry, and so he took on extra responsibilities. He would have to make sure that there was someone on the ground wherever we were going that had done their recon, the reconnaissance, and to make sure that everything was set up by the time we got there, and that it would be a straight shot into the hotel without a gaggle of paparazzi. You didn't have to walk through 50 screaming, hollering photographers. So you go in through a garage door and through a slippery kitchen, and then you were taken to your room where you stayed.
When did Malcolm Conley join your team?
Malcolm had joined. Jerry brought him on, so Malcolm has been with me for over 20 years now.
And in those 20 years, how often have you physically been present with Malcolm?
With Malcolm?
Yes.
Endless, countless, all over the world. Everywhere. Los Angeles, Japan, Serbia, films, tour. Malcolm was my, when we were on the Vampires tour in Europe, throughout Europe, and Malcolm was on the bus with me. We lived on the bus together, basically.
How often is Malcolm in LA with you?
It depends if there's or if there was a larger premiere, where,
Trying to see how I can make this.
where it had to be worked out so that it didn't turn into a chaotic and or dangerous event, because sometimes between you and the people there are these barriers, and sometimes the professional photographers or the professional autograph people will surge forward, and in the front rows of these, behind these barriers, you have little kids and older women and older men, and so when the professionals would surge forward, these people would start getting kind of crushed against this metal deterrent, and that was the most worrisome thing when you're at a premiere and there are thousands and thousands of people there, and I always call it running the gauntlet. Essentially, what it is that people are there to say hi and to support the film or the cast or whatever. So I've always gone out and signed for those people. I've always gone out and signed for all or as many as I possibly could. I mean, to the point of sometimes Jerry Judge would literally pick me up off the ground to make me stop signing and take me away. So, yeah, it was those kind of things. Again, you don't really get used to that, you know. So
Oh, man.
I forget what the original part of the question was. I got lost in the gauntlet.
I'll move on. What about Sean Bett? How long is?
You wanna go ahead and take a break now? Would that be okay for
That's
afternoon break?
fine. That's
Let's-
fine.
Why don't we go ahead and do that? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and take our afternoon break. Please do, we'll take 15 minutes to not discuss the case and, any outside research, okay? Thank you. Stay there for a minute.
Let me see, I think I don't know if I'm gonna adjust it. I'm gonna have to fix that fan. Well, I'll put that back in there.
Sir, just a reminder, since you're on the witness stand now, you cannot discuss your testimony with anybody to include your attorneys, okay? All right, and let's come back, I guess we can come back at 3:35, is that okay for everybody? Okay, we'll take a
Why would she say that? I mean, he's the plaintiff. You can't talk about the case. It's not a fucking witness. I don't know, maybe she just wanted to say something to him on the way leaving the witness stand. There's Johnny Depp. Okay, now this over here, I erased this, right? I did that. The face, okay, hold up. Let me get more of that red in here. Put that red there for now. I just grab that paint for now. Grab that for now. Alright. I'll fix this little by little. Let me see, I'll open the mouth. If I open it, leave it hanging, make it more interesting. Yeah. And open it. Can't believe that guy bought that painting. Dealing with people, they make believe they want to buy your paints and then they don't buy shit. Hate when dealing with, I don't like that. I really don't. When it comes to my art, I really find her very disrespectful. But what do you expect? And the other one. Bunch of wackos. The other guy. He's got you thinking that he wants the painting, and then you know, but you don't do that, you know. When it comes to art, it's very disrespectful to, you know, push someone along like you're interested in them. Very bad. Very bad. I don't take people like that serious. I really don't. No, just take a notation. Take a notation. That's what I tell people. Take a notation. And unlike right now, it's like with art is you go through like 30, 20 years where you're unknown. Then after 20, 30 years, you start selling some work. You start getting, people start recognizing you more and more. You start going more to gallery openings. When I go, I always try to wear something that people remember me. And you start growing your name, and next thing you know, your painting starts selling. In the process, that people had the chance to buy the paintings, they will kick themselves in the ass. Then they'll try to come back and try to deal with you without the gallery. That way, to see if they can get the paint cheaper. I don't want to deal with the headache of going through that. No, deal with the gallery. And that's the reason why I'm paying the gallery to not have to go through the process of go through all the bullshit. You don't have time for that. I shouldn't even be doing these videos. I'm not that type of artist. Okay, I can do it. Matter of fact, I can put there was those swimmers, that rubber piece that they put on their hair, that's real tight. I can kind of make that, and then make her neck long, and make things look. This hand is dropping this way. And this piece, I'll finish that tomorrow. see that glob of paint from here if I look at it. Yeah, very hurtful. I really don't like that. And I think that's happened to me twice already. Twice. And when it happens, it hurts, it really does. Because especially an artist that doesn't sell paintings often, and when you get someone to offer you to buy your work, you get excited, and then you read the text, and the whole conversation went like he was going to buy the painting. But you go back and you read it and you're like, did I miss something? Did I miss something here? You even copy it and save it. Did I miss something here? I mean, he even made an offer and this and that and the other, and which are grounds if I was to take you to small claims court. But just don't do that again. Don't do that. That's what you deal with. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, I try to carry myself. I'm not perfect, but I don't do stuff like that. I don't do stuff like that. I don't understand that. I really don't. I do. Make fun. Give them the painting and then fuck that. Good. Then you try to give them the right advice and you try to help them, and they don't even appreciate it. When you're telling them the right things, and it's someone from your area. I mean, you would expect that from kids that are in today, but not someone, not a grown person, not someone from the 60s, the 50s, to have a little more enjoy it. Just take notes. Take notes. I left with all those people. All those students that study at the class with David LaFell, and all the students that went and made money, and I stood behind, and turned out that I was one of his best pupils, and that I stood behind because of drug issues and stuff that I went through, and marriage and separation and relapse, but still painted, still kept painting, never stopped painting, never stopped painting. And those people still making paintings, but their work reflects David LaFell, doesn't reflect them. That's what they'll always be. Oh, they're students that David LaFell trained, and you can see it in their work. What would they do? Make money making workshops? 400, 300 per student to teach people stuff that they learn from David. In me, that I went completely the other way. I went completely the other way. I still painting like me, but I'm not making money like them, but I shouldn't even mention his name. You don't want to be recognized because of something that someone else did. That's not the right way to being recognized. It's like those actors that are related to, they have sons and their sons are famous actors, and then they get into the acting scene, and it's hard for them to have a career because they're always, when people talk about them, it's always like, oh, that's the son of so-and-so. Yes. All this is gonna get built up. All that has to get done. I'll figure how the hell would I get this mouth open. That's the thing, you gotta kind of do this. Maybe I could even do, let me bring this shoulder more out here. Yeah. Let me bring this more out. Bring this out. Yeah, but it's very offensive. Very offensive. I think they're very personal. And I think a person that does that has no knowledge about art or what artists go through and what they have to deal with when, you know, gotta be, because how many artists like Van Gogh that this guy sold one painting while he was alive? Could imagine that must have been hard. I mean, a lot of artists that before in the beginning people didn't recognize him, and Monet, I think people told him to give it up. And everybody else was selling their work, and their work was being shown at the salon. But they wouldn't show their work. And the Impressionist movement, those guys. The people came out with those Impressionist paintings. People didn't understand that style. Let me see if I put it that way. think I made the neck skinnier. I kind of like that. I kind of like that. I really do like that. The neck skinnier that way. Believe me, I don't have a problem with you like this. It's just not, you know, it's not nice. It's not very nice. That's my lighter.
All right,
But you have your own problems that you have to deal with.
all right, your next question.
Mr. Depp, I'd like to just briefly go through the security personnel that you just listed out before we took a break. How long has Leonard Damian been with you?
My kids are now 20, 23. Leonard Damian's been with me, I believe, roughly the same time as Mr. Pat, somewhere in the neighborhood of 16, 17 years. Yeah, I can't be precise, but they were very young. My children were very young when they
This has to all
joined the team.
have
Just
to kind of bring
really
all
after
this together.
Pirates was
Everything
released
is
in
basically
2003,
floating now.
the first.
Background,
Now,
this,
you mentioned
everything
your
is.
children, what is
trying to get a
Mr.
feeling of
Damian's
what's
role with
going on
respect to your
here.
children's security?
Excuse me?
You mentioned your children
no.
with respect to Leonard Damian. Is
I'm
his
gonna
role
make this
in
brighter
connection
here.
with your children's security?
Yes, very much so. Leonard,
I'll put the brush mark like this, that way it could,
Leonard Damian and
like this.
Sean Beth for quite a while were both sort of
I'll put the
assigned,
paint thinner
as it were, to my kids,
over here.
taking them to school, picking them up from school if Vanessa and I were unable to do it,
So I don't know if that's gonna-
or even if we were there, we would drive
We'll have-
with them to take the kids to school.
Then if I do,
And over the years, obviously, your children, my children have taken quite a shine to them, and they've become like another set of parents in a way.
And how long has Travis Mcgivern been with you?
Travis, I believe, a little bit less than that, I believe. I couldn't really speculate. It's a little less, maybe it's 13 years. I don't know.
I'm trying to get this, see what the hell I'm gonna do here.
Now, you mentioned that you had to bring on additional security after Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes.
How has the fame associated with that franchise affected your personal relationships?
Again, I would never complain about the repercussions, let's say, or the repercussions of the success of that film. But of course, as I said, there are sacrifices that one has to make. Sacrifices that you're not nearly ready for. Just simply when you when you go to a town, or you go on a press tour or something, and you're staying in a hotel. People stay in hotels all the time. I stay in a hotel. We've found that it's just a lot easier if I stay put in a hotel and not kind of, again, especially if it's with the kids or something, I don't want them to, I've never wanted them to see me as a novelty. I just wanted to be Dad, you know. Now, they're well aware of a lot, and they're well aware of pretty much everything. But no, you know, when you get recognized wherever you go, the basic truth is it's pretty simple. People are generally kind and curious, and if they've grown up with you in their living room, from a television series or from various films that they've seen, there's nothing menacing about being recognized. Sometimes it can be, sometimes people can get weird, but we've found that it's just it's better all around if I stay in my hotel room and don't go out to too many restaurants or anything, because it generally causes a bit of a hubbub. If you go to a restaurant, someone calls the paparazzi, and you go in for a meal and you come out and there's 30 guys out there. It can be a little overwhelming. It's not something, I think I said it before, it's not something that it's not something that I've ever gotten used to, and it's something that I hope I never get used to. Because I don't think of myself in those terms. I used to
5
be,
years, 10 years.
I used to be Johnny, if that makes sense. I used to be Johnny, and then my name, full name, which I honestly find still, it's difficult, it's uncomfortable to say my own name,
Used to be
because
Johnny.
when I say it, I
Buy
hear
a
the
fucking
commodity,
mask.
I hear the product. So I just
Put a
went from
fucking hat,
Johnny
put glasses, and
to Johnny
a
Depp,
wig.
and then that name,
Especially now with the corona, man.
with that
Oh,
name,
everybody
Johnny
wearing
Depp,
masks.
and some
Should be a lot
image was
easier.
cultivated. Certainly not by me, but the media.
Let me see if this.
Especially in those days, they must label you. They have to give you a label. And labels are one of the things that I've fought vigorously with regard to my work. I never wanted to be the poster boy. I never wanted to be the I don't have, I'm not built with that kind of hubris. I don't have that kind of
Yeah,
confidence.
after
I can do
you
virtually
making money,
anything.
after a while, you kind of
playing a character. I can
It
become
becomes
the
a little
character
difficult.
in my work. And that character may be able to spit out 100 words a minute.
This
But
is,
me, myself, Johnny, I
You mean,
cannot. So therein lies the difference.
Mr. Depp, other than acting, what other artistic pursuits do you have that may be a little less known to the general public?
let me do it.
Well, I've remained a musician. I've been a musician. I started playing the guitar when I was 12 years old, and that saved my life because I locked myself into in my bedroom at the age of 12, listening to records, moving the needle back, and then learning that piece, and then learning it again. So so much so, that I don't remember. I have no memory of going through puberty. I was just playing the guitar. I was obsessed with my guitar.
Any other artistic
Talking
pursuits?
to value.
I've always drawn since I was very small, since I was very little. I've always enjoyed drawing, and then began to paint, and so I started learning about painting and trying to I suppose different ways of expressing oneself, different ways to release the things that are living in your head, whether they be beautiful memories, whether they be horrific memories, whether they be I have I need to create. It's a need. It's a. Of course, I want to create as well, but I actually need to create because I need to summon whatever it is that I need to summon, to whether that's within a film or a painting or a guitar note. All of those things should come from a place of an organic place, a place of truth. Because if they don't, well, then you're just lying, aren't you? Every bit of truth, the person doesn't have to say anything on film. What's important is what's behind the eyes. And if they do say something, what's important is not necessarily the words that they say. It's very easy to say, I love you. But what brings it
the action.
into the realm of truth is
Right.
what's underneath it, what's not being said, the subtext, if you will.
That's true.
So, any artistic or creative venture, any film, anything that I do, that's where I'm coming from. That's my approach.
Mr. Depp, you mentioned words, and I think the jury has already seen some words that you've written in text messages.
Yes.
Can you please tell the jury a little bit about how you write?
Certainly. When I was young, when I was about 12 years old, my elder brother, Danny, walked into my room and ripped the Peter Frampton record off my record player, threw it across the room, and said, "You gotta stop listening to this stuff," and he put this record on, and it started, and I'd never heard anything like it. It was called Astral by Van Morrison. So I'm a kid, 12 years old. So my brother turned me on to Van Morrison, then he turned me on to soundtracks like Clockwork Orange or Last Tango in Paris. He turned me on to books by Jack Kerouac. He turned me on to books by Ginsberg, Philip K. Dick. I mean, Salinger. I mean, the whole James Joyce, the whole Hemingway, the whole thing. So I became very interested in vocabulary and the unique voices of these writers. And then I started reading people like Tom Robbins and Hunter S. Thompson, and then ended up becoming very close friends with Hunter Thompson for the last 10, 12 years of his life. And Hunter's writing, of course, because of the amount I spent, of time I spent with him, it has influenced my writing greatly. Hunter was known for inventing a thing called gonzo journalism, which is, it's the author putting himself in the situation, as opposed to writing it from the author's point of view. He writes it with him in it. And there are great embellishments, and embellishments are great sort of ways that he would twist things and express his feelings. And so he became a huge hero, of course, to me, and a great friend. In my texts and in my emails, or sometimes just even in my writing, you take the subject and you
people talk just to talk.
try to
Hey,
express it
There's
in
the
your own
people on the
vernacular.
internet, they think
And
that,
in that,
well, you can just say
um,
anything. And
For example, with the text messages,
it's like,
I apologize that everyone's
it's
had
the
to,
internet, you know? Yeah, you
experience.
can lie. Yeah.
I am
No one
ashamed
buy your painting.
of some of the references made. I'm
Yeah, it's like, it sounds like
embarrassed
the same people
that
that,
at the time,
that usually you see those
the
videos of
heat
those people that
of the
meet
moment,
girls and they talk to
heat
them on the
of,
internet. It turns out they're a
pain,
minor. Then when they get caught,
that I
oh,
was
well,
feeling,
it's just the internet. People say anything
went
on the
to
internet.
went to dark
It's like,
places.
I mean, how did I know?
There is no,
When she was 12. I mean, meanwhile,
if
the
you're
girl
writing,
tells him,
there
I'm
is
12,
no
I'm a minor.
set place that you have
But
to
that's the statement
stay
they
in.
make.
You
It's,
can
it's
travel.
the internet.
And sometimes
I don't know. That shit pisses me off. 'Cause
pain has to be dealt with humor, and sometimes dark, very dark humor. I grew up watching Monty Python, so yes, it can tend to get into dark humor. It can tend to get
should have not made that statement.
words are used that for emphasis, and words are used to express what you're feeling at the time, and it's just like growing up. You learn from those mistakes, you learn from those
Around you.
things, and you move forward, you know. And that's how you start to understand your own vernacular and what's important, you know, what's necessary and what's not necessary. I tend to be quite expressive in my writing, and after after the unfortunate words of Ms. Heard made their way into my